Hello, everybody. I can see people are starting to come into the... so this is like, hi, Kay, hi, Christine, hi, Elena, hi, Renee, hi, Rhonda. It's like all these people. I wish we were seeing you in person. I wish we were in a conference room, in a great hotel, but we're not. So we're going to make the best of what technology has given us. And let's face it, there's been an awful lot of diversification in this space. And so we're going to look at diversification in our space today.
Right.
First of all, for those of you who are watching the recording and for those of you who are in the live session, when you do watch the recording, it really helps to get recognition for our entire industry. If you can hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, the more subscriptions that we have, the more visibility we have. So that would be great. Hit subscribe just below that when you're in there. We'll be doing question and answers. There are two ways that you can do that. You can use the Q&A system within Zoom. And of course, you can press the chat button and you can put questions and comments into the chat box. We're going to hold those until the end, which is what we tend to do. And obviously, if we don't get around to specific questions, you are very, very welcome to contact our brilliant panelists directly. Now, that was on silent. Apologies for that. It just remains for me now to introduce you to our amazing panel. I'm so delighted to have you all here. Thank you very much indeed for participating in this. From all around the world, Maura Carey from the West Coast of the US. It's a very early morning for you. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Isabel Cudel from Moving On, based in Portugal. Lovely to see you as always. Madalena Andre from Expath Global in Bucharest. Lovely to see you. Elena Antonia also from Expath Global, also Bucharest. Tobias Schoenborn, great to see you in Germany. Thank you again for joining us. And last but by no means least, our illustrious moderator, Peggy Love, EuRA's strategic consultant for intellectual content. And with that, Peggy, I hand to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dom. And welcome, everybody. We're so excited about this session today, and we're glad that so many of you have joined us to hear this brilliant panel. I'll repeat what Dom said, because it is a brilliant panel, who are all involved in some way or another with diversification in each of their companies. So each of our presenters is talented. They're innovative, they're flexible, they're open-minded, and brave. So they're ready to undertake change and meet it head on, be it during uncertain times like we are in right now, or even just under normal circumstances. So as Jack Welch said, and this is one of my favorite quotes, it's very short, change before you have to. So think about that, change before you have to. These folks have all done that. So they're going to share their stories with us in this session, and we intend for this to be a conversation, and so we really hope you'll enjoy that sort of format, a conversation between the panelists. And I just need to say a huge thank you to all of you for taking time out of your busy day, and I do know how busy, I'm not that busy, but I know how busy you are during this time to participate in this briefing. So I'm going to start with Isabel. Isabel, please tell us what you have done to diversify your service portfolio, and when did this journey for you begin, and why?
Well, this journey began many years ago. Diversification, well, as you were saying, or just Jack Welch, or you reminded Jack Welch's words, you're supposed to do it before you have to, or sometimes you do it because you have to. In our specific case, we went back, well, I'll go back to 2011, when Europe and Portugal was especially hit by an economic crisis, and therefore there wasn't so much budget available from the different multinational companies, and there wasn't that much foreign investment coming into the country. So we did look into diversification pretty early on in this case. And what we did was when you diversify, you're looking basically either for new markets or you want to launch new products or services. In the example here, in our case, we were actually looking for new markets within Portugal. And it was, so we started looking at if foreign investment wasn't coming in the traditional expatriate flow of people in the country, then we saw that there were a lot of foreigners coming in, but with totally different characteristics. So it wasn't the typical expat, but rather call center operators who are salary-wise and unfortunately on the opposite end of the typical expatriates. So they are foreigners, they were foreigners coming in for their language skills. That's what Portugal was looking, they were hiring locally, but they didn't earn much, and therefore there wasn't much budget available for a relocation allowance. We were also seeing a lot of students, the Erasmus program was also hitting it quite successfully. In Lisbon, Europe was discovering Portugal as such a cool destination. And so we saw all these potential clients that didn't fit into the expatriate definition or the expatriate budget, which was here where we felt the need to diversify. And so we made just like some with the mix and match between the expertise that we had in-house, the resources that we had available, and made sure that they were aligned with strategic assets that we had in-house. And so if strategically you're looking into keeping this strategic, you don't want to break your strategic assets when you're looking for new markets. So you can either, there are different definitions of diversification, but in this case, and I think more applicable to our industry, is really looking to your biggest assets and what other omelets you can make with the same eggs that you have. So you can either add on a few ingredients and put all those together and create a new product, create a new recipe to what you're doing. So to give a specific example, and going back to our call center operators, so there was no money available, but there was the need to assist these workers from abroad. And so we just made a product or a service where we could bundle an orientation, a quick orientation, very quick orientation of the city, a tax registration, and a check-in, for instance, and we would bundle all that up in a 4-hour morning. And so, as you can see, it was very little service, but overall in this little service in the sense of only 4 hours, only a morning, so that would bring the cost down to the company. But then we did something like almost 300 of them. So that was a very different diversification on the standard airport meet and greet, orientation, half day, full day, a whole day of local registrations. Then these guys in particular, they were checking in into kind of a student accommodation solution. So it was only check-in required. So we just, used our imagination and see how we could actually reach this whole new market that effectively turned out to be 300 plus people with such a different service that you would probably provide to an expat.
So since you started so long ago, and that was a long time ago, 2011. Yes. So are you sort of on a roll with sort of being, as I said, flexible and open-minded to new services that
number one to diversification is being flexible or agile, as we've also worked a lot on in recent years. So you got to be agile and you got to be flexible in not only creating but also in your service capacity to deliver service that's not on your traditional scope of work. If we leapfrog to a different kind of crisis, and I know we didn't want to talk about the sea crisis currently, but I think that's also one of the motives why we've decided to touch the topic. So I can also touch base very quickly on another example of how to diversify, again using what we have in house or not. So they're typically in our industry, those of us who provide in-house immigration, I would say we do 99% corporate immigration. But there's a whole new chapter out there of citizenship immigration, which is typically done by lawyers. So lawyers can, of course, and even should be the only ones advising on specific matters of citizenship law. But after citizenship, all these third country nationals, so after residency, they're looking for citizenship. And these people, to apply for citizenship, they need to know more about the country and the destination. So we found that also we have this competitive advantage in knowing very well how to integrate foreigners in the country. And so we started going for niche markets out there of people who, you know, lawyers typically wouldn't need our service, but or lawyers' clients wouldn't need our services, but they do need integration for a specific purpose, even if it's a legal application. So you just got to be really creative and go see where the needs are and listen a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Isabel. So Maura, moving along to DwellWorks, and you know, Isabel said a couple of things that reminded me of the many changes and kind of growth strategies that DwellWorks has had over the years. So now something pretty huge has happened recently, which probably everybody knows about, but can you talk a little bit about that sort of big change as you stepped into really providing corporate housing services as a DwellWorks product?
I'd be happy to do it. I first of all, I couldn't even begin to have this conversation without sort of acknowledging sort of being among this esteemed panel and just listening to what Isabel had to say and Dom before, that this whole concept of sort of just being very pragmatic owners of change, that it's often incremental. It's not always, some, sort of nuclear change, and also really builds on just sort of a natural mindset for owning your business and wanting to own your success, not sitting in a corner and crying, but literally sort of running into the fire. So it's just been such a privilege over the past couple of weeks going through the Resilience and Brilliance sessions and then these, just realize like that's really what diversification is all about. It's just being very mindful and paying close attention to what's going on in your environment and owning it and doing something with it. So to your point, and I will get to your corporate housing question because it's obviously a space we're super excited to be in, but we see it as a pretty natural outflow of the way DwellWorks has built its business. Obviously founded in 2007. And was a U.S. business and really not even a DS business when originally founded, right? It was doing services in the U.S. for transferring employees, but for non-DS services. And then, of course, acquired operations in the U.S. and then eventually went global, all of which I think follows, as Isabel already indicated, sort of being mindful of, what happens when the world delivers change to your doorstep. So when you're in the middle of a recession, you need to start thinking about how indeed are you going to come back stronger. And it's not so much reacting to the situation as reacting to what happens after the situation, realizing the world is going to be a changed place because of event X, Y, or Z. So how are we going to be ready for it? And that's really what sort of drove DwellWorks getting into the global space, recognizing that the world would come back from a recession and there would be a need to deliver services at the scale that we did. And again, sort of following in Isabel's messaging, that they would want it to be different. The clients would want it different. That there's goodness always in sort of traditional methodologies, but there's an ongoing expectation for evolution and change. And what are you going to come back with better, not just revert back to before? And so I just wanted to make the comment that certainly in the midst of the pandemic change, what we found is the sort of wholesale embrace that customers have been having, I think a little bit long overdue, for digital content, for absorbing information, because we can't all be side by side any longer. In some cases, you just physically can't be. In some cases, it's a preference, but this ongoing sort of consumerized expectation for people want information when they need it, and just getting more and more comfortable with both digital content and letting the consumer / customer / assignee, sort of design their experience. I mean, it's really been, frankly, a very needed and welcome change that's happened through this period of getting the customer more engaged with the process, which for DwellWorks, because we're very operationally oriented, we want to be very efficient at the way we do things. We're amalgamating and pulling together, like, well, what are the most frequently asked for questions? What do people need more versus less? And even though it sounds customized and expensive, it's in fact highly standardized because people ask for the same things, but they want it delivered to them in a personal way. So from a pure sort of process design, product design perspective, one of our outcomes coming out of this will be a solution that does sort of, manage those things well together, letting employees manage their information needs digitally, but also being very much in control of what features and benefits they want to execute. So that's been fun for us. It's been operational but exciting. And then the other, of course, is this expansion into corporate housing. So when Dwellworks became a larger than US operation, we now have footprint in about 13 or 14 countries. That became a sort of resource asset for corporate housing companies. They are mostly centralized in their operations, and so they really needed sort of a local voice, a local eyes in the marketplace, you know, to be able to negotiate with landlords and speak the local language and give good market intelligence. So we've been doing that for the past 5 years. It obviously was a diversification of our business, but a near adjacency. And then earlier this year, Oakwood, for non-pandemic reasons, had made their business decision to sort of really focus on their hospitality business. And so they exited being a solutions provider, a company where you could go to a provider, a solutions provider, a platform, and look for a solution anywhere in the world, not necessarily an Oakwood property. But they've chosen now to be focused on that. And so obviously somebody needed to step in and support the clients they had who did need that more agnostic, find me a solution anywhere. And because Dwellworks had already been a supplier to them in the model I just described to you, sort of being a voice in the marketplace in so many markets for them and for other corporate housing providers. And because we are good at network management, right? We're very good at working with partners. You can only survive in this business if you're good at that. And so that sort of happy combination of an opportunity presented by the marketplace and the skills we already had enabled us to launch a corporate housing brand, which you know, we sort of built it over the past several months, launched the brand. It's called Dwellworks Living at the first part of September. Unfortunately, people are still not traveling anywhere near as much as we'd like them to, so I can't report back on, you know, a banner year in sales, but it's been very well received. And I think, again, going back to what Isabel said, it's because we've been fortunate to leverage sort of in-house, not only talent, but passion, you know, that passion for service, that passion for building, that passion for getting things right, and sort of taking what you already have and leveraging it into a new space. So that's the Dwellworks Living story. And I think I just kind of wanted to close my comments in saying I really admire the industry overall for being, you know, fantastic at execution. Going back to my first comments, that you sort of embrace the opportunity in front of you, and also just be really proud of the fact that you're good at executing. I think all of us in this industry, you know, we tend to hear these conversations about wanting a strategic seat at the table and so forth. And my feeling is that that seat's already been earned. You know, being very good at managing a complex process for complex people, the people who we support and their families, is at the core of thriving this business. And I think it is what drives that diversification, because we're good at taking the assets that we have in our hand and sort of molding them into new needs.
Yeah. So the word that comes to my mind about all of that is bravery. Because and that's really important. Flexibility and bravery. Those are the words that went through my mind while you were talking, Mara. Thank you so much. That was a great overview of what's going on at a very diverse, large company in our industry. So Tobias, so your services are, and your diversification is very specific, I believe. And so what was your motivation for change in your company?
Yes, we come from a very specific background. Like our company was founded as a consular visa provider, and going to the consulates, sending in passports and applying for visas. And we saw more and more the demand of our customers that they want to have the complete process in one hand. Like visa is like only one part of the whole immigration process. So we first started to offer like the complete value chain of immigration services. So not only the consular part, but also the stuff happening before with applying for the work permit and afterwards the local registrations. And additionally, of course, offered relocation services with home search, school search, and this typical like destination services. And while this was implemented, especially in Europe, we heard from our clients that the demand for like post-worker notification was increasing. This is a specific European topic. So when people from Germany, for example, travel to France to install like a machine to get it up and running, like especially the German engineers. They need in France like a special notification. They need to notify the labor authorities about this job, and this is like a huge market, because you can imagine that intra-European travel is quite a lot of numbers. And we actually started, or were also lucky to get into this topic very early, like 3 years ago, and start building up those services. And we also have been one of the first market players offering this service, offering like an easy solution with our online portal, because in differentiation to immigration, this whole visa and posted worker stuff is like mass production. We don't receive like 10 cases per day, we receive like 1,000 of cases per day. So you need to have a good system in place to get it all like up and running, and you can deliver it to the excellence that the client wants to have it delivered. And we developed then simultaneously our online platform, and now becoming more and more also like a software company offering this operation system that travelers can apply their permits in. So not only like visa and immigration cases, also posted worker notifications. So we are kind of like in a hybrid position, offering on the one side the operation excellence, so the work permit, the visa, the notification, or also certificate of coverages, which are needed to travel compliant. And on the other hand, we offer like a one-stop shop of our online platform, and it's like software as a service combined with operational excellence. And this is a really interesting topic. It's like the economy of scale, what you need to consider, because if you can do it in Germany, you can do it in all of Europe, for example. And we are also becoming more and more agile and like a startup company with a lot of techies and all this fancy stuff. And this is the interesting part, to get this digitalization like up and running in the industry.
So yeah, so I think hybrid is a good way to describe what a lot of companies are doing right now. And of course, that's the word, at least in the U.S., that we're using for the schools where the children are going only a couple of days a week. And so I like that kind of analogy of the kinds of services that you're providing. So interesting. Thank you.
It is.
Okay. Madalena and Elena, you, I don't want to say a whole lot because I want to hear from you about what you're actually doing. I believe you built a whole new company, and I also know you didn't think of this idea during COVID or last week or something like that. So can you just tell us a little bit about your motivation for doing that? And then when did you actually start thinking about this new company of yours? And please talk about that a little bit because it's very interesting. I think Madeline, you're going to start. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Peggy. I will start. I will leave the nice, sketchy, beautiful story to my colleague Elena a bit later on. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much. I honestly and really feel that I'm among friends and partners here. So I'd like to thank you all. I would start by saying that developing the online business, well, aside from the offline one that we had, definitely counts as diversification in itself. More than that, it helps other providers diversify their services as well, because it makes them think of new possible ways of growing their businesses. With Expat Global, actually, what we do is that we provide a chance to be more visible, to increase your brand awareness, and to have an access, well, unlimited access to corporate clients all around the world in a direct manner. All of it is free up to a point when a fair commission will be enforced, only in case the sale is successful, because we don't believe in leads or yellow pages type of platforms. Well, selling online services is actually something very new, and well, Isabel, you know this because you had your experience. the online can take many of us away from our comfort zone, right? So we are also supporting with services creation, with explanations, and as we have a whole dedicated team for this whole process. For the past year, because it's precisely 1 year ago when we launched the platform, I've been talking with hundreds of global mobility providers all around the world, from Chile to China, from Norway to South Africa. And I've been in touch with a wide variety of mindsets, visions, strategies, and fears. It's quite amazing to see how differently various people react to new ideas, to new possibilities, and to new ways of doing things. Overall, after 1 year of discussions and meetings, it's a personal feeling and a personal conclusion. I'm seeing two different patterns and profiles showing up. Yeah. So on the one hand, we have almost 90% of the people that I managed to talk to. Right. They have great insights. They have great business acumen. They are not afraid to try out new sales channel, new things, to adjust, to go out there, to customize their offers, to cater for a wider audience, to try something new. Marketplaces can be online in general, and marketplaces in particular can be a scary thing. It happened to Amazon for a lot of years, right, in the beginning. We expected this to happen to us, being the pioneers of this model in our industry. And I'll continue, Peggy, with another quotation. Mark Twain said that the person with a new idea is a nutcase until the idea proves successful, right? So we are your usual nutcases right now.
Great, I love it.
In terms of diversification of services on a marketplace platform, I have met top-notch experts in tax or immigration sector, former Big Four employees who opened up local immigration and tax boutiques, and they just love the idea of marketplaces and the endless possibilities the marketplaces have to create service offers, because basically your imagination is your limit here, right? They explained to me, before I had the chance to explain to them, they explained to me that, okay, they do not need to stick with the traditional, I'm just giving examples, like 4,000, 5,000 euro immigration packages that they were used to for a certain type of client, right? They can keep those, of course, for the clients that wish to have a complete, a total support for, of an expert, but they can also develop perhaps less expensive packages, keeping, that's very important, keeping the quality of their services at the same time, just by getting, for example, introducing more desktop support, minimizing the in-person interactions, getting rid of the additional time-consuming activities like translating documents on behalf of clients, paying governmental fees on behalf of clients, going to stand in line to submit documents on behalf of clients. Getting rid of all these, you remain with the core, right? That can be offered to other type of clients that have different budgets, for example. Then, and Isabel mentioned it a bit earlier, thinking about the local internal labor shortages, because I think almost all countries are witnessing this. Like another example would be service providers devised domestic service packages for companies, so not international, domestic service packages for companies to use as incentives to attract talents locally. Let's imagine, I'm just giving an example again, Lyon is witnessing a shortage of labor, and companies in Lyon need to attract potential employees, not necessarily from abroad, but within France, right? With a well-devised package, a bit of basic relo, basic immigration, and perhaps moving, that supports the potential employee to move from Paris to Lyon, because otherwise, okay, what do you need to do to attract an employee from Paris to come to Lyon? Acting as an incentive, companies actually have higher chances to attract talents. On the other hand, there are those around 10% of the people that I'm talking to that start with, it's complicated to sell online, or this doesn't match my strategy type of thinking. due to various reasons, the reasons I think are multiple. I will not dwell in those. I will just highlight one that I believe it's a major blocker: the mindset. Yeah, the mindset. And Isabel, I'm sorry, Isabel, I keep getting back to you. And Isabel mentioned agile, the word agile, right? Agile mindsets. So they are focusing only on the classic expat, the one we have all been used to for the past 20 years or so. Top managers, top executives, fat relocation packages, only certain types of services, right? And they're just sitting very comfortably in their comfort zone with their current clients. They do not want to make any changes in their services provision to cater for other types of SI other needs, other budgets in a different world, right? The only issue here is that, Elena will talk a bit, more extensively about it, is that I hope you agree with me, but we expect that the classic expat pool will decrease significantly, right? And fewer executive and top managers with fat grade packages present, and an increasing unprecedented number of other types of expatriates. We have the gig workers, independent contractors, virtual assignments, digital nomads. You call them whatever you want, right? But these are applicable to all levels in a company. They are not the prerogatives to top management or executives. So my question here would be, are we willing, are we eager, do we want to tap into this new pool of customers? Do we want to cater for a wider audience and for a wider range of customers? Or we'll just continue to stick with one single type of package, one day orientation to the orientation, blah, blah, aimed only at high-end VIPs and executives usually. As a wrap up to my diatribe here, I just say that perhaps it's time to recalibrate, to try to explore new options, to be creative. It's a world of opportunities out there, and to think about possible ways of working together to serve together a pool of customers that we believe that it's wider than ever, actually.
Yeah, awesome.
That's
to think about.
Thank you very much. And I'm giving the floor to my colleague Elena, the storyteller.
Storyteller. Take it away, Elena.
Thank you, Madalena. Thanks God, Peggy, that we're not talking about elections, really. My older daughter, she's so keen on. So about that topic, I cannot talk, but about our topic, I cannot. I can talk many hours. So if I'm talking too much, you should stop me. Yeah, I was thinking a lot about how to share my long experience in our industry. I will share how diversity came along with my professional experience from two different perspectives. My past, meaning what I have built as a service provider and what I have implemented to make the business grow and be successful. And the second perspective, the present, me being the tech entrepreneur growing the first SEM. SEM means a SaaS enabled by marketplace. A SaaS enabled by marketplace developed for the mobility industry, which is an ecosystem which puts at the forefront of the business the service provider, their knowledge, energy, and involvement in the direct relation with the direct clients, tracked by all the tools, the tech tools given by a platform. So actually, let's talk about first, let me start with the past. I have a background in law and economics. I jumped into this industry when I was quite young, 26 years old. So in the last 14 years, I have built one of the top mobility companies in Romania and Moldova. I had the chance to run for 3 years the HR department for a large energy company listed on the stock exchange. And it was a great opportunity for me to learn how is to be on the other side of the fence, meaning what does it mean to be on the HR shoes. When I restarted my consultancy work, I had few lessons learned as HR executive. Compliance always sells, and integrated services differentiate any provider in a market. So in 2014, 2015, I invested a lot, and I have started to develop internally the tax and payroll department, onboarding in the team certified tax consultants, and organizing the company into three major departments: immigration, tax and payroll, and relocation. To be honest, this model made us extremely competitive in the market because compliance for expatriates can be a real hassle. On top, we have been very much focused to squeeze our comfort zone in regards to sales. So we ended up to have 99% direct clients. With direct clients on board and being obsessed by quality, it was quite very easy to make upsell. So slowly, when we, for example, we had a tender with a large company, if the tender was organized for immigration, we were ending up after a couple of months by selling tax for expatriates or relocation as well. So it was quite a fantastic journey and a great decision to invest more in compliance and to have more diverse portfolio of services. So this was one way of sharing how I diverse the portfolio, being a service provider. The second perspective, the present, and how we end up building a new business. Therefore, new types of services for our industry. Well, a good thing brings other good things along. Imagine that we were working for so many years only with direct clients and with extremely dynamic industry with a lot of businesses, travelers, and STAs in many countries. So we received hundreds of requests from the HRs or project managers to provide mobility services in various countries where they have clients and they were in need to send the resources. For me personally, the industry model with intermediating in the offline via hundreds of emails, various projects, didn't make me feel too comfortable because it was too much hassle. And I really believed in the idea the person who gets his hands dirty should be at the forefront together with the client. This was what I had in mind. Therefore, the idea was born out of a need. Having an obsolete model in place, we thought to build a tech ecosystem that helps all providers, like I was, keep their clients directly, making the communication faster and more personal. In brief, for example, if a service provider has a client and that client needs support in other countries but wants to work with that preferred provider, that respective provider having access to a SaaS, a software as a service enabled by the marketplace, can create their own network of reliable partners, and actually they can become a small management company. So there is a new type of service for our industry. Now, leaving technology aside, I would like to continue with the market opportunities. I'm sure that most of us felt a lot of fear about the future of our industry when the pandemic hit the world in the beginning of this year. To be honest, I felt the same. But after a while, I realized that the post-COVID era will be a world of great opportunities for us and mobility providers. As Madalina mentioned before, the pool of customers currently and in the future will be actually much wider, and I will explain why and how. We all know that companies will most likely look now to reduce costs and to try to mitigate the damages incurred this year, because let's face it, there were a lot of damages. But think of the global mobility market divided nowadays in three different types of expatriates. So we have the first category, the corporate employees with the classic assignments, STA, LTAs, generous packages, VIP packages, and so on. The second category, and here I mean the wide pool of international workers. The second category consists from the freelancers and blue collars. And the third category, who are the digital nomads, meaning employees who can work from anywhere. They are the new, let's say, overnight born expats, born from the seismic shift generated by the pandemic. And what this seismic shift generated? Working in the office to working from home and slowly working from anywhere. What is happening now on the working floor? We have a significant number of requests from corporate companies to support them legally to be compliant in various countries where their staff requested to work. A short example. We have employees in Germany who are willing to move to Romania. It's just an example. It was, let's say, much handier for me to share this example. So those Germans are willing to move to Romania as posted workers for maximum 2 years because Romania has 10% income tax for employees. If they move to Romania, both based on the EU schemes on social security, they will pay social security in Germany and income tax in Romania, which is lower than in Germany, because in Germany we talk about progressive income tax. So people with higher salaries are taxed a higher amount. I believe that Tobias can confirm this, that Germany has a progressive income tax. As well, we have employees of our corporate clients who have been discovered by the companies that they work in various countries in the EU, and the company found out that they have to register as a company in the host country where the employee works or work to pay social security contribution. Hence, many governments now are preparing to open the gates and make immigration processes smoother and faster in order to encourage the employees who can work from anywhere to enjoy, let's say, a new life in their countries. We are talking about countries like Canada, like Estonia. Spain is working hard on a new policy to attract those people. The Emirates just announced relaxation immigration measures that open the gate for the digital nomads. So there is a new pool of overnight expatriates for whom the companies must build special policies to accommodate their needs. The companies which will not be flexible and smart enough to design smart HR, tax, and immigration policies for those employees will definitely lose the chance to attract the best talents the company will need to dive into the new world of tech battles. For sure, we will not talk about the VIP packages they got before for digital nomads. Digital nomads probably will not be entitled to this. We are talking about totally different packages. But basic packages to help them settle will be a must. So less expatriates with high packages, but more and more talented employees working from anywhere, which triggers a lot of compliance work and compliance related services for the companies and basic support for the expatriates will be like the new norm. So I think that we really should consider this pool and look on the, let's say, the part and the opportunities which are rising for now with this post-COVID era. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
I can talk a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
I can talk a lot about the topic. I have many things to say.
And I think you summed up what everybody has said to some degree. As you said, I think there will always be, call it a small number of the high-end expats or whatever you want to call them that still require and want the personal touch, but I don't think you're saying that you're taking that completely out of the mix, and to have, you know, an alternative for, as you say, the workers that we've seen in kind of every realm right now, while everybody's working at home and people are fleeing away from cities, at least in the US, and moving to, you know, the country somewhere, to their, you know, college roommate's country house or something. And they can, as long as they have, you know, set up what they need, they can do this. So to keep it in the compliance realm, that was very important. It's not just a haphazard, you know, kind of service that you're providing. Very, very interesting, all of you. Thank you so much. I think we covered a lot of kind of pretty much everything that we do in our industry. And the stories were great, having to do with your journey and your, you know, when it all started. And I didn't want to not mention COVID, but I wanted to emphasize the fact that you were working on these things long before this situation landed on us less than a year ago. So thank you very much, all of you. Dom, have you received any questions?
I mean, please, anybody who has questions or comments they'd like to make, please put them in the chat box or use the Q&A system, which you can see at the bottom of the screen if you hover your mouse over the bottom of the Zoom panel. And obviously the panelists would be delighted to answer, or if you've got examples of where you've diversified. I think what was so interesting to me about what all of you said was the sort of wide range of diversity that you're looking at, both within your business models and in the, what I thought was incredible was within the wider understanding of how the mobility industry is evolving. Two things came to mind. Tracy, thank you for putting this in. Tracy Kautzman ran a session at the Full Forum regarding virtual assignments, which was fascinating. And Tracy says, very interesting, hybrid, not just focusing on the expat, new options, agility. Thank you, and love how you all diversified and created new options. One option that we talked about when we had our little discussion earlier in the week was how potentially the industry is going to be in a stronger space to respond to lump sum. Does anybody want to jump in on that? Elena, yeah.
Yes.
I was going to make a quick comment, a couple of
Okay, Maureen, yeah, you begin, please, Maureen, yeah.
Matt, yeah, I mean, we don't have the sort of full built out platform. I think that perhaps some of the others that have been building on, obviously we're very focused on, you know, sort of destination and sort of related accommodations experiences. But two quick things. One is, and I think this was already largely covered by Elena and Madalena, but I think thinking in general of the community that we serve as not relocation, but as business travel helps. So that indeed it's not just people going on any kind of assignment, but it's people going on sort of continuous assignments. You know, we at WellWorks like to talk about people not necessarily moving, but being continuously mobile. So I think that also continues to expand sort of this universe of people who need services and support. And, you know, if you will, way back when, you know, a year ago, and you would think of them, you know, to be authorized to travel, to stay at a certain place and come back home. You know, now all of that has changed. The way in which people travel, their hesitancy, their need to have sort of local expertise and comfort around, like, is this place going to be safe? You know, obviously, as we've gotten into corporate housing, to be honest, that was a reason for the diversification. It's a very large marketplace, business travel. And so it's bigger than Relo, so that diversifies, and yet a lot of those customers sort of evolve. They go from being a business traveler to potentially somebody on a short-term assignment to potentially somebody on a long-term assignment. So you have this opportunity to sort of be a partner in service to someone over a long period of time. So just a comment on that sort of continued diversification of the population. And then relative to lump sum, I think, again, going back to Isabel, you're obviously the root of all goodness here, Isabel. You know, that which you described in terms of, you know, the Erasmus program support, I think that's a very good model for what, you know, sort of lump sum should be. You know, for good or for ill, as I said in my earlier comments, the pandemic has enabled a much broader mindset, I think, on the part of a lot of corporates, and understanding that you can't mimic a traditional program, just dial it back and call it lump sum. What the lump sum program needs to be is it serves a different population. It is often the global nomad. It is often the early career, highly valuable. I mean, these aren't necessarily people who, you know, are dispensable by the organization. They're highly valuable contributors, but they just are often early in their career. And as I think no one on this call will be surprised to hear, they actually would much rather have a digital experience. Nobody wants to go through a traditional program who's also a lump sum beneficiary. It's just that one of you mentioned, you know, your children in your 20s and so forth. I mean, that's just not how they move or what they want. So being adaptive to what the process is, delivering it mostly virtually because they're very capable of working on the internet, and offering just enough sort of lifeline and local experience, I think is really both the sought after and the well-designed solution for that marketplace. And it's certainly what we're building.
What I love, I just want to throw this out, is, you know, my career started a very long time ago when pretty much everybody had a very rich package or nothing. So I've been through stages of really the creation of the internet in the first place, and thinking to myself shortly after I started my company, okay, that's it. That's going to put me out of business, because that, you know, everybody's going to get what they need. They can go to that thing called Google or whatever, and they can find everything that they need. And what I love about all of this is the recognition that that's not it. I mean, that gets you even more confused. I actually kind of came to my senses way back when I told myself, you know, yes, everybody can go to the internet and find out what they want. And we want them to do that because we want them to get confused. So they'll still need our services. So the local expertise is really so important in the realm of the digital world. So thank you, all of you, for kind of coming back around.
Really interesting, Peggy, because in Germany also the government is starting to digitalize the whole immigration process, for example. Like in Berlin, attracting a lot of like IT people for the startups located in Berlin. They have like a digital interface now, and we also link to it, so they have like a speedy route to get the work permit issued when you have the digital connection, when you have this API in place with the authorities. And they're just starting to promote it, and this is also especially interesting for people localizing to Germany, getting like a lump sum package as well. So the company says, well, here's a lump sum, so you get the compliant part covered for the home search, etc. You can use Airbnb and all these other providers. And here are some providers taking care of the process, totally digitalized. And that's also what we see now, especially through COVID, becoming more and more important.
And that leads me on to some very, very interesting comments that have come through. Thank you to everybody who said very, very nice things. I'm going to first of all, Renee Stegman, diversification is key to survive, and love hearing all these stories. She also goes on to ask a question, which I'm going to come on to in a moment. But very interestingly, obviously we're talking about technical solutions, and Elena and Madalena, Isabel, Maura, and Tobias. Robert Fletcher says, we need to remember that ultimately we're working with human beings. And we don't all come in one size fits all. So we must be flexible in our approach, right? And that's kind of where you all seem to be coming from.
Mm-hmm. The flexible approach.
Exactly.
Isabel, yeah.
Yes, when we, I mean, nowadays, as Peggy was saying, it's easier to talk about incorporation of technology in 2020. And I won't go back as far as your early career, Peggy, because it wasn't that long, but the technology, it wasn't there. But in 2012, even then, we found that it was a bit too early for an e-shop, because people couldn't figure it out how you would deliver a service that was so typical face-to-face and how you do it online. But in 2012, we already were very used to Skype. We weren't as used to Zoom, but Skype was there, and Skype enabled screen sharing. So one of the most useful pieces of advice we could give out for cheaper option for the end client, be a student or the call center operator, or already at that time there was a different markets. You could just do a Skype call, share your screen, put Google Maps there, and explain all the commuting distances between where you would live, where you would work, and that was 1 hour of our precious time and expertise that could be delivered through technology as simple as Skype. So even back in the day, so that for sure incorporating technology. But I just wanted to make the point that it doesn't have to be expensive technology. You don't have to create a whole new company or adhere to a whole new platform. You can still be creative, delivering services using technology, the technology that we have, be it simple Skype or Zoom. So if we have this kind of face-to-face meeting with somebody sitting on the other end, we know that first contact orientation, putting in perspective, that first talk can really make miracles, and you're offering a 1 hour service instead of a 3-day bundled.
Yeah.
Different pockets.
Interesting, indeed. And a very interesting comment and question from Elisa, Ketty, and Helma. These new digital nomads described by Elena, the question will be to know whether the corporate will support and pay for being compliant with immigration and get the relocation services. Otherwise, the digital nomad might just do everything for themselves. How do we tap into that to make sure that they don't?
Yeah, so actually, this is a very good question, because what we see right now and what is the trend, because working with so many direct clients, of course, we are partnering with them, and they know that they have to work more on their policies, and they have to adapt their policies on the new trend. So what we feel is going to happen, it will be the following scenario. So we will have the compliance part. The company must register, must do some compliance form and so on. So they will do that because this is corporate clients. They usually they are compliant. Okay, but the soft part in regards to relocation, most probably it will be left aside for those digital nomads, because it is actually their wish to live and to work somewhere else. So the companies would be very open, yeah, to make themselves and to keep the HR and the company compliant, and they will do their stuff. This is what we had. We had many scenarios during this summer, but the rest will be probably on top of the employee, because it was the employee who chose to work somewhere else. But what is very important and what we should have in mind is that digital nomads are not, let's say, blue workers. They are open to pay basic services. So that's why I mentioned that we are talking about a larger pool of people moving from one country to another than, you know, the trend that we had before with large packages, LTAs and STAs. So now we have to look at this part of employees who will grow. And it will be very, very interesting, because we as a service provider should have the tools and the right services for those digital nomads who are going to look for services online. Imagine that people now are used to buy online. For a person, for a human being, it's tested that a human being needs between 4 to 6 weeks to learn how to use and to change the shopping habit. So now the COVID accelerated very much this new habit. People are searching more and more, even for services online. Like there are some surveys made that the HRs, 58% of the HRs, they are searching when they need a supplier. They make their research using Google, right? So actually we need to be prepared and to serve to Google more in order to help the clients to find us much faster. And this is very important. And that's why we believe that tools for this new generation, millennials, they love technology. They are searching our services online. Imagine that we have a pool of tech people. And I remember that a couple of months ago, we wanted to hire a product owner. Unfortunately, he left Romania and he is working for Uber in Singapore. And he was amazed about the project. He's like, oh my God, in Singapore, I got a lump sum. And for me, I spent 3 months to settle myself because I was not considered an expatriate. But the company paid me, an amount of money to find my own way. And I didn't find anything on the internet, like something reliable. I was just looking, on Google and finding bits and pieces. So it was very hard. And for us, it was like, yeah, okay. So we're not talking about only expatriates or classic employees going from one country to another, but as well for new employees who get a lump sum to move to another country. And where do they go? And what we have to keep in mind is that using the tools, as I mentioned last week, those employees would pay the service right away. Yeah, because you pay online. So they would pay you the service, you will deliver the service, and it's done. While with the corporate clients, we work with corporate clients for 14 years. Actually, we have a high cost to chase the invoices, the payments, the PO, the process orders, and so on. So it's quite a high struggle. So you might get the money in 90 days from a company, from a corporate client, and instantly from a direct consumer. So we have to keep in mind that those employees who will get the lump sums from the companies, or even if they will pay from their own pocket, they should have a solution for their need. It is a pity to, let's say, to left apart this junk of customers.
I think that's very interesting, and I'll end with one comment that's coming from Alina Wright. Thank you for that, because it echoes what quite a lot of people have said, you know, in conversations that I've had with them about, you know, how they've diversified during this particular period. We don't really want to talk about CEWA too much, but in terms of being remote. So Alina says, we started video viewings for clients, followed by lease contracts being scanned, passing payments to the landlords on behalf of the client, meeting families at the airport, and taking them direct to the apartment. Now and that's long-term housing necessarily. What's so interesting about that is you still need the expert. Your person who went to Singapore didn't get that expert, so is left floundering. So whether or not you're paying for it yourself, this is the message. The message is you need that expert who you can trust to say, trust me on this video viewing. I was talking to Christine Martin right at the beginning of the pandemic, and she said, we're filming every apartment, and we're not going, look at the beautiful balcony, look at the gorgeous kitchen. We're going, it's on a main road, the closet space is limited. It's the trust that you're being given the truth. And that's what our industry does with such brilliance. Peggy, I'll hand to you to goodbye.
Wow, that was perfect. I really agree. I think we have covered a lot of territory. Thank you once again to all of you for sharing these stories. I think it's great. I do hope we can do some follow-up on this. If anybody out there didn't have your questions answered, please feel free to contact any or all of the panelists. And thanks again, and good luck with everything that's going on.
Absolutely, thanks to you.
I really learned a lot. I probably learned more than anybody else.
The
Thank you.
video transcript of this will go up onto YouTube on Friday, and we'll also be sending you all a survey evaluation, the last question of which will be, would you like to follow up on this, or do you have a topic you would like to address? Or would you like to talk directly to one of our speakers? So look out for that. Let us know your thoughts. But Maura, Isabel, Tobias, Elena, Madalena, Peggy, thank you so much for your insights and loads of lovely messages coming through. Thanking you all. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much. And we'll do the traditional Zoom wave goodbye.
And thank you, and see you on Friday, Tom.
Excellent.
With another topic.
Thank you very much.
The next week.
Thank you so much, everybody. You guys are
great
great.
to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.